Welcome to part 2 in this series designed to help you buy a violin. Part 1 is a separate video. I recommend watching that as well, and that offers 9 guidelines to take the confusion out of the process. There are so many variables that play into finding a quality instrument, and that's going to give you some clear guidelines of what to ask for so that you can really make the most of your investment. Now this video is specifically 14 things to look for in terms of craftsmanship. I want nothing more than for you to get your dream instrument and be able to play it all the time and not have to immediately take it right back into the violin shop for a 2-week repair. So this should help avoid some of that effort. Now, 2 things to let you know at the beginning of this video. First of all of this information you can go to my website and download. There is a checklist. You can get the 14-part checklist, and you definitely want this. If you're going out to violin stores, you're definitely going to want to have this because that's quite a bit of information, and I think you could easily forget something if you're just doing it from memory. You can also get the entire article there. So there might be another person in your house that needs some education on this or would appreciate the support. The second thing, and this is where I'm just gonna get the biggest smile on my face because I have a challenge, and I'm hoping that one person watching this at some point in time will take up this challenge, something very close to my heart. So let's go right into 14 things you can look for when inspecting the craftsmanship of a violin. So the first thing is, are the seams glued? Does this violin have closed seams? So you're gonna wanna look all the way around here on both top and bottom. Typically they open up here. There's a vertical seam in a lot of violins here where this is the button. And oftentimes I see them up here at the top. So careful inspection there. Now here's where it gets a little bit complicated because sometimes the open seams are so small that you can't visually see them. So there's a really neat little trick where you can take your hand and knock around the edge of the violin. Now this one wasn't able to do it, but if there is an open seam, you would hear a different acoustic properties. So that knocking will help you identify where that is. Now the second thing we want to look for, are there any cracks? Now we talked about in the first video with the guidelines that cracks are normal. So this violin was built in 1780 and plenty of cracks, and the cracks are almost always around the F-holes where the wood doesn't have as much integrity. It's frail, it's a little fragile there. But if the crack, there's two questions here. If the crack goes beyond the purfling, it's compromising the integrity of the instrument. The second thing to be cautious with, if the crack has not been repaired in a timely manner, now the wood has warped into a different position. So you have 2 problems, a crack and a different shape that might not glue back together. So that is something to be real careful when you're looking for. So I mentioned purfling. Some of you might be saying, what is purfling? Well, that is the inlaid portion that makers put in here, and it's designed to protect the instrument from cracks. Now, that's interesting of itself, but as you're looking at instruments, you need to know that high quality violins that cost a little more money, have inlaid actual purfling. Violins that are lesser quality, more economical models are painted on. There's no protective value in the painted on purfling. And here's what's a little bit tricky, is that purfling that's really done well in the inlaid violins we were mentioning looks like it's painted on. So you can sit there and just stare at it for minutes and not be able to tell. But now you have this checklist, and this is something you can ask the seller. Going on next, is the bridge too high or not properly fitted to the instrument? Now, at this point, I'm assuming you're touching the instrument, you're playing the instrument, and you're actually getting it in your hands to see how it plays. And if it just feels like it's hurting your fingers, usually that's because this is a little too high. Very, very easy fix. Easy, economical, you just shave the bridge down. I've even had some crafty students just do that themselves. Not my recommendation, but it was available. Next, the bridge, the feet of the bridge here, are what transmits the sound from the string into this resonating chamber. If those aren't flush to the face of the violin, you're not going to get a full transmission of sound. So this is something to know if you're feeling like, gosh, this violin is just my price point. I love it. I like how it feels. I like the sound, but there's something that's just not quite right with it. Look right there. It might just be the feet of the bridge need an adjustment, or it needs a new bridge. Easy fix. Going on, is the sound post in the correct location? So this is very difficult to know from a novice perspective. So the sound post is a dowel, and you can't see it. I wish I could show it to you there. It would require some fancy fancy screen skills that I do not have. It's right in here. It's a vertical piece of wood, and it transmits the sound. We talked about it comes from the strings to the bridge, the feet of the bridge, put the vibrations on the top of the violin, but how does it get to the bottom plate? That's the sound post. And my favorite part about getting this series ready was learning that in some cultures, they actually refer to that as the soul of the violin. So it's that important to know. That's just a neat fact. But the soul meaning is the heart of the sound. So this is, again, if you're really liking an instrument, but you're on the fence, and you feel like, gosh, something's just a little off, it seems a little nasally, it's a little damp, and it's not fully projecting, ask if you can get the sound post adjusted, and sometimes that will just pop it right into such a place of beauty, and you know, that's my violin. Next, do the pegs move easily and hold their grip? So if these are not properly fitted, they're not going to stay in, or they're just not going to work right. And here's where I'm going to just put my violin teacher hat on. I've had so many students have stiff pegs or improperly fitted pegs, then they don't tune their violin, and that is a problem. So I will take off that hat for now. But that's it. That it could be a potential repair, and is something to go ahead and move those around and make sure that those are moving efficiently for you and effectively. So next we're going to go into the bow. So you need to look at the bow. Let me set this down. And there's a couple things here. Is it warped? So as we're looking down the bow, it's common for bows to move out this direction. I hope you can see that. And often that's just because the bow was played so much, and a lot of us, our playing styles will lose more hair on one side than the other, which just warps the bow. Easy fix with the bow rehair. However, if it's been left for too long, this is just like our cracks education. It's been left for too long, it's permanently warped, and it needs to be recambered. That's a bigger process. So I'll let you read about that in the article. You have a link to that so you can understand that scenario. Now, the other thing we want to look at, is there enough hair on the bow? Because if you have a firm budget and it costs $150 to get your bow rehaired, and there's not enough, that needs to be taken into consideration with your process here. Next, is it dirty? So I'm going to put it up here. You can see I have a little bit of dirt at the frog here. Normal. That is from correct playing technique. That's okay, because I'm never really going to play all the way down there unless I'm doing a training exercise. But oftentimes people will grab the hair at different locations, and even if our hands have been washed with soap and water, skin has oil inside of it, and hair is a natural oil absorber. So you'll get these bald spots in sound. You'll be playing it and it's not coming out. Again, something that you need to take in consideration. Either the hair needs to be cleaned, or it needs a complete new rehair. So I want you to really get the most out of your budget for this, so do make sure that you have that looked at that. Going on, does it need new strings? Now, if it's not holding the pitch, if it's dull, if it's just kind of going out of tune, I hear them just go flat all the time, it's new strings. Some strings can be quite expensive, so it's another thing that we just want to make sure we're being respectful of your budget. Next, is the chin rest adequate for your playing needs? Now here, I have a couple demonstrations. This is something good for you to know. This is the instrument that you're really liking. It sounds beautiful, but it feels weird. Sometimes it's just the chin rest, and you can know there's just multiple different styles of chin rests. These are just 2 of dozens. There's even custom fitted chin rests out there. So know that some of these things can be easily swapped in and really make that good violin just awesome and amazing for you. Does the violin come with a case? Do not assume this. Most do, some don't. Ask. Next, when you're working with the seller, you want to ask if it comes with anything else. Now, if you're working in a store, you could ask, would they give you extra bow rehair in the next year? Would they throw in a free case? Would they throw in some sheet music or a music stand? If you're working with a private seller and this is the person who says, this violin's just been in my closet for 10 years, my child used to play it in high school, but it's just sitting there. Ask them, do they have a music stand they'd like to get rid of? Would they be interested in throwing some of these accessories in there? I want you to get the most out of your investment, and it never hurts to ask. So be creative with your proposals moving forward. And the last thing for you to look at is, who is the maker, what model is it, and when was it made? This is more complex than just the 3 variables. So just to start, you can look inside the F-hole and you will see a label that should say who made it, when it was made, and what the model is. But this is where the complexity joins us again in this process. Each maker, in especially more current times, will have different calibers of instruments. So they might have a student model and then a more performing model. So you need to know which model that is. You want to know when it was made because you want to look up some reviews and check on that time period. Perhaps that maker has improved, perhaps the opposite is true. Now on that, I just want to share just a little bit of a caution here, because I had a store that I loved to work with when I lived out east, and some of the best small violins I've ever seen in my life, and I had really developed such a confidence with sending my students there. There was a particular maker and a model that was just one of the best I'd ever seen for small violins. So I felt pretty confident after several years of working with this store to just send a student there and have them purchase that. Well, we got it back into their lessons and I was shocked. It had nowhere near the high quality that I'd come to expect over the years. And why I'm bringing that up is that you really don't know how an instrument is going to be until you play it. Even if it can work in 2 directions. It's either a very renowned maker, but they're going to have a spectrum of quality in the instruments they produce, or you might just find a no-name maker that just made this great one-off that's just sitting in your local violin store waiting for you to make some music. That concludes my 14 points. Again, do join me on my website and download this checklist. It's free, and I made it there to share and just support you in this process. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do. And now this big smile is coming back because I have a creative challenge for somebody somewhere at some time. I have a belief in my heart, and I can't imagine this isn't true, so work with me. I believe that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of instruments just sitting in people's closets, garages, basements, and attics that people just don't know what to do with. We accumulate stuff. Probably everybody here is going, yeah, that's me too. We all have probably too much stuff. What would you think about starting a campaign to get those instruments donated and sharing them in some programs where the students don't have some of the economic advantages? Think about that. If you're the person that takes me up on that, just keep it in your heart. I don't need to know, but I'm confident someone will. Thank you so much. It's my honor to share these with you, and would love to see you on another video.